Kubiak intends to try to work out a deal to become the next head coach of the Raiders. Now, some of the verbiage there is important from Adam Schefter as he says intends to try to work out. Let's make sure everybody knows he cannot officially sign a contract as the next head coach anywhere until after the Super Bowl. We've seen this in the past, but this means a coordinator is going to be hanging out, trying to figure out what all this looks like while he's getting ready for the Super Bowl, obviously. But it looks like the deal is all but done. Gary Kubiak going to be the head coach. Caroline.
Klint.
Gary's son, Klint.
A lot of Kubiaks around here.
A lot of Kubiaks. Klint's going to be the head coach. I am beyond ecstatic. And this is what I would say to everybody. Like, we just talked to Andrew Siciliano about how it's a horse race, and everybody's watching Twitter every hour, and it's like, what's it mean? This guy's pulled out, this guy. When all of this started, when the entire coaching cycle started, 6 weeks ago, and everybody said, oh, who's your dream candidate? The number of people then that said Klint Kubiak. Now, we didn't know that Harbaugh was going to get canned. We didn't know that Tomlin was going to get canned. But we look across the entire landscape and look at how many, I think, significant jobs came open over the course of this offseason. Klint Kubiak had every opportunity to say, you know what? I want to go somewhere that has maybe a little bit more stable foundation. You know what? I want to go somewhere where I know my quarterback day one is ready to be a pro. I want to go somewhere where I can work with an MVP. He could have said any of that. The number of times Klint Kubiak could have decided that the right fit was not Vegas, I think is huge. So to go through this whole process and do it in a very calculated way. I love the fact that the Raiders talked to over 14 coaches. I love the fact that they brought in over a dozen coaches for in-person or Zoom interviews where they spent substantial time. I love the fact that it was calculated. Like, anybody can come in the room one day and win an interview. I know plenty of people that can win an interview that aren't qualified for the job. And I think the Raiders have had that happen to them multiple times in recent years where somebody won the interview and you feel so good, you got your good feels on it. But Brady went into this with a real calculated approach. And I say Brady because the people that I've talked to that are tied in have made it clear he has been a loud voice in all of this. So I believe that that's a huge part of it. So what you've had is Kubiak with Sam Darnold and an offense that has shown its ability to be everything that we thought it could be, getting better and better and better throughout the course of the season. When their defense started to fail them, their offense stepped up. You see Kubiak's offense be absolutely unstoppable to talented defenses they play along the way. And you decide, you know what, I'm going to bring him in. And maybe the most important part of this, and I hope we find out that it is a very long deal that is very lucrative for Kubiak, because I want the Raiders to be forced to acknowledge that today is day one. I don't give a damn anymore about the past. I don't give a damn anymore about the last 5 years, 10 years. Hell, I don't care about the 80s and 90s. I don't care about the 70s. Everybody talks about the past of this franchise. I don't care. I care about how do I get to see quality Raiders football now. And the answer to that, to me, is getting a young head coach with an offensive mindset that knows, hey, I'm going to have to bring along Fernando Mendoza the right way. And I trust Klint Kubiak to do that. So to me, this was a statement about a long-term rebuild. This was a statement about understanding it's going to take a minute. And it was a statement about getting the right person in the room to develop what I think is unquestionably right now. I would bet every dollar I've ever made and ever will make that Fernando Mendoza will be the first pick in the draft. And on that day, I'm going to look at Fernando Mendoza and I'm going to look at Klint Kubiak and I'm going to say, you've married the timelines. You've figured out an organizational structure and you have finally done the simple thing. You have finally figured out how to make things competent in the organization. I have hope. We never know, but today I have hope that they've at least committed to the long-term process of changing the franchise.
And I love that you have hope, Fitzy, because that is what football fans deserve. Yes. Woo! And the crowd goes wild. Well, that's what football fans deserve. And that's what you should have whenever you're entering this new era of football. And you're right. It is a new day. It's a new era of Raiders football because we have seen several organizations go from the pits of the depths of hell in the NFL to the tippy top of glory in this league based off of one decision. I remember a time when the Chiefs were irrelevant in the National Football League. There was a long time between the greatest show on turf and this iteration of the Rams that we see now that are constantly knocking on the door of a Super Bowl. I lived it. I lived in St. Louis and grew up with horrific Rams teams. I mean, what was the difference for the Chiefs? Bringing in Andy Reid, bringing in Patrick Mahomes, bringing in Sean McVay for the Rams, drafting Joe Burrow, a long history of nothingness for the Cincinnati Bengals. Year 2 with Joe Burrow, they find themselves in the Super Bowl. Sometimes organizations and teams can be just 1 or 2 decisions, good decisions away from being terrible to being a Super Bowl contender. That's what I don't. Will Kubiak and Fernando Mendoza be that? I don't know. Anybody who claims that they do know is wrong. I don't know, but I can see the hope. I can see the glimmer of hope. I can see you piecing the puzzle pieces together to say this is our ticket to being a contender in the NFL. What I love about the Kubiak hire is that Klint Kubiak owns the offense in Seattle. I'm always leery of hiring offensive coordinators that didn't call plays. Now, you can look at a long list of Sean McVay assistants who have gone on to be incredibly successful head coaches in the league. I could also show you Brian Callahan, who didn't call plays in Cincinnati and fizzled out within a year and a half with the Tennessee Titans. I love that Klint Kubiak had total and complete ownership of the offense, still does, in Seattle. He was able to bring Sam Darnold into this guy who, sure, is he a renaissance project, but we still have questions about him. Now he's leading his team to the Super Bowl. That gives me so much more belief in Klint Kubiak and his ability to own a team, to be in charge of the team in its entirety, because he's already owned one side of the ball.
Yeah, I think your point is a great one. And then I look at what it all means for Fernando, right? And how much have we talked already about Fernando Mendoza? And the more I see the interviews with him, the more you just realize that there's one thing that really matters to this guy. Like, there's one thing that Fernando Mendoza truly cares about, and that's football. I guess football, family, and God. Those are the things, the tenets we've all taken from Fernando. Even watching some of the joking interviews that he's done, where he's just, he's oblivious to everything other than, I want to be great at this thing. And yeah, that's going to be difficult. I've seen all the jokes where he's like, hey, I got addicted to winning. It's my new drug, basically. And everybody say, well, get used to the opposite. I get that. But the real way you break culture, in my mind, change culture, is you bring in people that can establish something new and different. Fernando Mendoza just seems built different. Like, there are very few times that I watch somebody and I think, you know what, they're built to handle it. There are interesting distractions in certain cities, Miami, Vegas, Nashville. Like, there are certain cities that I think present a lot of opportunity for people to go off the rails. And wealth presents so much opportunity for the same exact thing. Fernando's going to be in Vegas, and he's going to be generationally wealthy overnight. I don't think I've seen a kid come out of college in a long time that I feel more confident can handle that. I don't know if he's going to be a great quarterback, but I know he's going to do the work. I know he's going to be addicted to the process. I know he's going to bust his ass to do everything he possibly can. And I think that's a huge part of it. And even for Klint Kubiak, same thing. Like, you've got somebody that, his brother's an offensive coordinator. His dad is a very famous coach. He grew up around offense. It's like Gary Kubiak's offense has absolutely influenced the modern NFL that we see today. It takes one. The Houston Texans were a job nobody wanted until DeMeco Ryans took it. And it was a team that was never going to be successful until that same year they went out and they drafted a quarterback and an edge rusher that changed that franchise forever. I think that's the hope every franchise has, but particularly this year when you're picking first in the draft and you see a quarterback and a coach, I feel alignment. And that's just the power that comes from that.
And it is refreshing. We can always make fun of Fernando Mendoza's demeanor and his personality. He has such a jovial approach to everything. I think that's going to be a refreshing perspective to have in the Raiders locker room. And you pair his just need to win. It's not even I want to win. Winning is important. He said, I am addicted to success. That sounds very Brady-esque to me. To have Brady, who's going to be having a much more vocal voice in the decisions that are being made with the Raiders organization, paired with a quarterback who is addicted to winning, wants to win so badly, like on a cellular level, I think the Raiders need that. I also love Klint Kubiak's offensive system for a young quarterback. He wants to run the football. He wants to utilize play action. That takes a lot off of a young quarterback's plate. And you have a running back, that you drafted in the first round last year in Ashton Genty. I think that's going to be a great pairing. Fitz, get him an offensive line.
Oh, yeah.
I need Fernando Mendoza to have an offensive line that keeps him upright like I need water. Klint Kubiak's going to have the pieces and the money and the draft picks to be able to do that, but I'm excited about this pairing.
Second most cap space going into this offseason with over $100 million available. So they'll have the money if the players are there that are worth it.